Now, Texas has been back and forth for months trying to figure out whether they should regulate hemp or ban it entirely. We saw Lieutenant Dan Patrick pushing hard for a ban, calling the gutter a poison and claiming that it's killing kids. Meanwhile, Governor Abbott seemed to stand with medical patients and veterans, and he favored regulation. Now, after months of battling in 2 special legislative sessions, it seems that Texas still has no idea what to do with THC products.
New overnight, the battle over Texas's hemp industry still isn't settled. After weeks of back and forth, lawmakers wrapped up their second special session without passing any new rules on most THC products. KPRC2 News reporter TJ Parker is live outside a CBD shop in the Heights. TJ, what does this mean for customers throughout the area?
Well, Zach, for now it doesn't mean much. So, for example, the CBD shop behind me here on 11th Street could still sell those gummies, hemp-infused drinks, and those smokable flowers. The full ban was on the table, the full THC was on the table, but did not pass. Now, I want to show you this statement that we just got from the hemp industry and Farmers of America in response to this not passing. It says in part, quote, "The hemp ban bust represents a major win for Texas businesses." Dan Patrick continued his out-of-touch crusade to ban all hemp, ignoring 80% of Texas voters. So the House gavelled out late Wednesday, leaving Senate Bill 6 without a vote. It would have banned any hemp product with detectable levels of THC, except for a couple that are non-psychoactive. Senate Governor Dan Patrick wanted a total ban, saying regulation just wouldn't work. But Governor Greg Abbott pushed for tighter rules instead, like age limits and potency caps. And so again, Zach, that ban did not pass here within the state of Texas.
So another special legislative session ended and no resolution as to what the hell to do with the THC products. Now, there are a lot of different lawmakers debating these issues, and it's not just the hemp issue that's being debated in the special legislative session. There's also a host of issues, including the Texas redistricting issue, which everyone knows is a hot topic right now.
And also on its way to the governor is a bill that will require people to use bathrooms and locker rooms that are the same as their birth gender in schools and government buildings. Supporters say it protects women. Opponents deride it as the bathroom bill.
So, Jack, we've talked about what's passed. What failed in this special session?
Well, one bill that failed was the most talked about at the end of the regular legislative session, and we're talking about the ban on all THC products. You remember the governor vetoed the ban on THC products at the end of the first special session, at the regular session, and he placed the topic on the special session agenda. The Senate passed it for a third time, but it went nowhere in the House, and last night Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick announced despite negotiations they were still far apart, and so no legislation, not even to ban it for people younger than 21, passed. Another bill rejected is property tax relief, specifically a bill to clamp down on cities and counties with more than 75,000 residents from raising property tax revenues. Enough Republicans teamed up with Democrats to oppose it, saying it won't lower property taxes enough and that it should also include smaller counties and cities too. And one other bill that went down would have kept most complaints against law enforcement officers from being made public. Of course, the big question now is, will Governor Abbott call a third special session? No word yet from the governor's office. Some Republicans tell me they want it to take another attempt at reducing property taxes and banning THC for those younger than 21. Other lawmakers I spoke with strongly oppose it. They say they've had enough. Karen?
I guess this is just a wait and see game now.
Yeah.
All right, Jack, thank you very much.
So as you guys can see, there are a lot of issues being debated at these special legislative sessions, and hot topics, not just that hemp bill, even though that was one of the most talked about issues down in Texas. Now, there was a ban which came into force just a few days ago, and I want to give you guys a little bit more info on that in a bit and show you guys what Lieutenant Dan Patrick had to say at the close of the special legislative session. But before we do, just a quick reminder, if you're getting value from this video, please do like, share, and subscribe to the channel. And if you want to support us further, join the ICANN VIP Bean Club or just buy us a cup of coffee. And if you happen to be a home gardener, try the ICANN Organics. Use the code LEGAL. It works on the bundle and the beans.
Texas lawmakers are still in Austin as the special session gets closer to ending. And we just learned this in the last hour. The effort to ban THC products is done for now. Lieutenant Dan Patrick took to social media saying that after a discussion with Governor Abbott and House Speaker Dustin Burrows, they were unable to come to a resolution.
Now, there are some folks down in Texas taking Lieutenant Dan Patrick's words to mean I'm surrendering, I'm giving up, and that's it. But the truth is, I feel like this may not be the case. He may keep coming back until he gets his ban. And having a look at what he says that while he appreciates the effort, they failed to come to a solution, but he makes it clear that his position remains unchanged. The Senate and himself are for a total THC ban. So some of those celebrations may be a little bit premature and short-lived, but let's have a look at them anyway.
The Lieutenant Governor of Texas conceded his fight against THC last night on X, and the second special session is done. Last night, the Lieutenant Governor of Texas, Dan Patrick, went on X and posted essentially that his THC ban was not going to go through. There's always the option for the governor to do an executive order. There's a possibility of a third session, although we believe that is unlikely. It would have been nice to see an age gate passed, but the Lieutenant Governor apparently was not willing to concede on that. The Lieutenant Governor made it clear that he would not accept anything less than a ban, and the Texas House Representatives made it clear that they are not willing to accept a ban. That is why we are in the position we are in, and we do not have a full ban on THC in Texas. So please, thank you, representatives. We are extremely grateful for what they did. That is where we are at. Love you guys. Happy hunting.
Now, isn't it pretty interesting that rather than pass legislation that puts an age cap on these products, that he was so strong-minded, almost to the point of being self-destructive, that he would prefer a total ban than have an age cap put in place? It's mind-blowing to me. Now, it was really pretty interesting seeing the entire back and forth between Lieutenant Dan Patrick and Governor Abbott down in Texas. The whole thing was like a reality TV soap opera.
Caroline and Rashi, you could call the governor's comments in Waco today a partial victory lap. That's because while much was accomplished since January, some critical high-profile issues remain unsolved. I'm talking about the stalemate over the future of THC sales in Texas, which has steadily deepened. As you may remember, earlier this summer, Governor Abbott vetoed a complete ban on THC passed by the legislature, calling instead for strict regulation of the rapidly expanding industry. Since then, Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, leader of the state Senate, has loudly rejected any compromise or regulatory measure as irresponsible and a threat to the health of Texans. That hard stand has put the ball back in the governor's court.
So despite the positive sentiments and the celebrations, I do think that Lieutenant Dan Patrick, through his own words, are going to come back with another ban. It's probably going to be just as strong, if not stronger. Now, the big question on everyone's mind is a third legislative session going to be called? And coming out of months of debate, laws being proposed, laws being put in place, sessions ending and bills failing, where the heck are we right now?
Well, it's no question THC has been a hot topic for the Texas state legislature. One powerful faction led by Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick wants to ban it, and another group led by Governor Greg Abbott wants to keep it, but with some restrictions. Fox 4's Stephen Dial is dialed in on this debate, and once again, the group in support of a ban has lost. Stephen?
Hannah, the total THC ban failing for a third time is a big win for the hemp industry. The total ban on consumable THC was vetoed by Governor Abbott after the regular session. In both special sessions, the Senate passed the ban, but stalled in the House.
So that can be perceived as a little bit of a win, and I'll take anything that I can get. But one thing that's not a win is a ban that actually went into force banning all THC vapes down in Texas. And I'm going to break that down for you guys in a bit, but before we do, here's Texas Governor Greg Abbott just about 20 hours ago when he was asked whether he's going to call a special legislative session for the third time.
Hard stand has put the ball back in the governor's court, given he has the power to call yet another special session to force the issue. Now, today in Waco, the governor signaled that he's keeping that option wide open.
And imagine if, after completion of a full game, you go into overtime and then a second overtime. And who knows, there may be a third or fourth overtime. Who knows what's coming?
Beyond that cryptic statement delivered to business leaders, Abbott said not a single word regarding the embattled $8 billion hemp business. An issue he did talk about was relief for Texans impacted by the devastating July 4th Hill Country floods.
Everybody whose primary residence got damaged is going to have their homes rebuilt, and they are being rebuilt as we speak right now.
Well, it's great to see that at least Governor Abbott is giving priority to peoples whose homes was affected through those natural disasters, which cannot be said about Governor Newsom over in California after the Palisades fires, and he's just doing a whole lot of nothing. But as it relates to a third legislative session, it does seem to me that Governor Abbott is not necessarily feeling it, but he's still reserving the right to call it, and that's pretty clear by his example of if you have a game with overtime and another overtime and another overtime, well, when is the game actually going to end? When are we finally going to say enough is enough? But I guess we'll just have to wait to see what happens. But one thing we don't have to wait and see is that ban which went into force banning all THC vapes. Now this is pretty interesting because they're placing an emphasis on Chinese-made vapes. Check it out.
There's now a new normal for those who vape here in Texas.
As of this past Monday, retailers can no longer sell any vape that was made in China, which experts say is an overwhelming majority of what is in the stores today. But how will authorities enforce the new law, and will it curb vaping among youth? 3 News reporter Ryan Hopper breaks it down for us. Ryan?
Mike, Leslie, while it has never been legal for students or those underage to possess vapes, authorities see curtailing the sale of vapes to adults as a way to curtail the overall supply, while hopefully lowering underage demand. SB 2024 is in effect, and its ramifications could be drastic. Local vape shops could lose a large portion of their business, while local authorities say this law could be a major part of not losing a generation of kids to addiction and respiratory issues.
When you have these vape products coming over from other countries, and I've seen this firsthand, you don't have any regulation to know what's going into them. What you'll see is these pens coming over, and they're sold. The kids will be selling them, or they're sold to children, and they're sealed. They're not like the stuff you get in other states where some of these products are legal. And the problem is you don't know what's in them. And many times they'll have other products like fentanyl, for example.
Judge McCoy with Nueces County says that roughly 9 out of every 10 kids who come into his courtroom test positive for THC, the primary psychoactive ingredient in marijuana. And while correlation does not always mean causation, Kirby Warnke, chief of CCISD Police, says his department sees the same.
Well, I mean, it's not a far stretch to say that if you're abusing substances, then there's probably a behavioral component to it. We haven't done any types of longitudinal studies to determine that, but anecdotally, we can see that that's usually the case.
Now let me know what you guys think about the total ban on vapes in the comments down below. You guys know what I think about a lot of these synthetic products. I'm not a fan of them, but it's not about what I think, it's about what you guys think. So drop it in the comments and let me know. Now I'm pretty sure that some of you guys may have missed this, but recently growers are being blamed for poisoning herb smokers across the US. If you haven't seen that video, check it out. It's pretty crazy and it's coming up right now.